This is Global Study Talks, the podcast of educations.com. Welcome to a new episode of Global Study Talks. In the episode of today, we're going to talk with Ahana, who is from India, but she did her high school in Zimbabwe and then her bachelor in the Netherlands. A Bachelor of Media and Information, is that correct?
Yeah.
Welcome, Ahana.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Let's go step by step. First, I would like to talk about high school, because you already had an experience of changing country before the university. So let's start with that.
Yeah, so I'm from India, as you mentioned, and my parents, they work with the UN. So we moved pretty early when I was 8 years old to Mozambique originally. And then I went to Zimbabwe, and that's where I did my high school. And I feel like because I was so young, I didn't have a choice. It's not like when I chose to go to the Netherlands.
You were with them, a suitcase, Ahana, and everything.
Yeah. But I feel like, honestly, it was the best thing ever. I'm so happy my parents decided to leave India to take me to also part of the world that I feel like not a lot of people go to very often. And it was just the best time meeting people from all over the world. I will admit it was a very secluded expat community.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So you met people from all over the world there.
Kids of ambassadors or people from the private sector, parents from the private sector. But yeah, we were just kids. We didn't always know what the parents were doing. We were just in high school.
And how was the education there? Was it an international education?
Yeah, I went to an international school. It's called International Baccalaureate, the diploma I did. Mm-hmm. And it's usually made for people who move around a lot. So the diploma stays the same, so you don't have to go from, IGCSE to A-level. I'm not sure if those are the right terms.
Yeah, but you don't have a specific country guideline to do the high school. It's more like an international one. So I think that already gave you, the idea of the continuation was not going to be there in terms of the university, or how was that? Were people that stayed there for studies or?
In Zimbabwe?
Yeah.
No.
From your circle,
No, not a lot of people stayed in Zimbabwe. A lot of people went back to their home countries. A lot of people chose to study abroad like I did. I didn't go back to India. I went to the Netherlands. Mm-hmm. So it's a bit different for everyone, but I don't think a lot of people stayed in Zimbabwe unless they were from Zimbabwe. Yeah, makes sense.
I was going to ask what I always try to wonder in the interviews, what about the family, right? Because sometimes it's us that we have this idea of going abroad and the family don't have any idea of how that is. But in your case, I guess it was a natural thing to do if your family was already moving around.
Or my parents couldn't hold me back per se from that. They knew that's how they've raised me to live abroad. And there was a conversation do you want to go live in India? And back then I didn't. Now I feel a bit disconnected from my culture, growing up abroad almost my entire life. I feel like I'm not Zimbabwean or I'm not European. I'm not fully Indian either. So there's a bit of third culture identity crisis, if you will. But
the international identity, that's the one you have, I think.
Exactly. But yeah, my parents could never really stop me. They were you've lived abroad your whole life. It makes sense that you want to carry on living abroad.
Was Europe a region or an area you were looking at, and then you found your career specifically? Then we will go into that more in deep. But or was it more I don't know, did you have friends here? Why you looked towards Europe in the first place? I don't say Netherlands yet. Europe.
Yeah, I didn't want to go to the States. I knew that for a fact. And a lot of people, they choose the States or the UK or Australia also comes in. Not as much, I think more nowadays. But, and I kind of wanted to be different. I thought, I don't want to go to the States. I don't want to go to the UK. So I picked a more continental part of Europe. And of course, English was a big thing for me, getting a good education in English. I think actually most countries in Europe offer that, but
not all of them, right?
Yeah, I feel like there's Germany, Spain, Italy, the Netherlands. Yeah.
And there is why. you
Yeah.
picked the Netherlands. I mean, it's always something that, I don't know, it's a dreamy place to go and study.
Yeah.
I don't think you did something that, a very specific thing.
No.
It's something that it's in the bucket list of many people,
Yeah.
like to live in the Netherlands, right?
Yeah.
Like to ride a bike there
Yeah.
to the uni and
Yeah.
have fun.
I mean, so yeah, I did pick Netherlands, but I have to say I did apply to the UK as well.
Okay.
And this is because I didn't fully know what I wanted to study. I knew I wanted to do something like media, but also honestly for a long part of the time I thought maybe politics. So I applied to PPLE, and which is politics, philosophy, law, economics. It's like a
very broad.
very broad.
Yeah.
Like I say, I wanted to keep it very broad because I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I applied to like King's College for that. And I got in, but then,
Okay.
yeah, but it was very expensive. And I have to be honest, I didn't look at scholarships at all, which in hindsight, I'm like, why not? That's so stupid. But I definitely had the grades to get a scholarship. I just honestly, university applications are so stressful. I did not want the stress of looking for scholarships as well. And I realized that's a very privileged thing to come say as well. Like, not a lot of people have that option. They have to look for scholarships. But I'm lucky in the sense I didn't have to think of that as well.
This is a really good opportunity to remind everyone that listen to us that there are scholarships. And of course, it's nice if your family can help you. And I mean, it's privileged, but if you have it, take it. I don't think you should feel guilty for that or anything like that. But of course, there are a lot of opportunities that are out there for you to take them. So I encourage everyone to go into the educations.com website, for example, where you can find some scholarships and to look around and to ask people, because there are a lot of options nowadays, right?
Yeah.
But going back to you didn't think about that, so you put your focus for election in another thing. So UK sounded like expensive. So was this your option B?
So I applied to UK and the Netherlands, and I got into the UK at King's College, but it was very expensive. And of course, even though my parents said, pick what you want, we'll help you no matter what, I felt that responsibility of not taking advantage of that. And on that note, speaking of scholarships, even though I didn't look into it, I also want to say, I used to think you can only get scholarships via universities or the country or your home country. And that is not the case. So again, not to plug educations.com, but you can get it through private companies as well. So do better than what I did and look everywhere, not just what you think,
Yeah, sometimes through sports. I don't know. There are a lot of different options. So check it out. And always, like, if you have a dream of going somewhere, look around. There are a lot of options probably. And of course, it will be hard, right?
Yeah.
But going back to the Netherlands. Now we arrived in the Netherlands.
Yes.
But you had to pick the career first,
Yes.
right? Like, so how did you decide? I can see that you went for a broad perspective, we can say. It was not like you wanted to have some focus on a specific career or job.
Yeah.
But do you think that has something to do with the time we're living? That we, like I heard a lot of people are going for a broader spectrum, let's say, when deciding.
Yeah, I mean, I also feel like your education doesn't necessarily determine your career. I think...
Absolutely.
Like, no matter what you study, you can... end up working with whatever. But I did feel like I knew I wanted it to be somewhat communication or creative. And creative is to communication to politics. That's a big spectrum, but you can make it work, which is why I applied to media in the Netherlands and University of Amsterdam. But yeah, that felt like the right way for me to go. Like, see what there is to know. So I did courses in politics, in gender, but also in marketing. So I was like, I want to see whatever I can and then pick.
Was that elective courses or were part of the core?
Both. You had your standard like marketing communication, and then I did my minor in politics and gender and sexuality.
Right. It's interesting to dive into how the program was, but I think it is something that at least I checked a lot, like before studying, like not just for the job that I could have, but also for which are the subjects we're going to go through, which are the courses we're going to have. And I don't know if that's something that everyone checks. Some people maybe go for the idea of being, I don't know,
Yeah.
certain career.
Yeah.
Instead of like checking, okay, which are the things we're going to study, which
Yeah.
are the books we're going to read or whatever. Did you dive into it or not that much?
Ish, I wanted to know like a general gist of what the course was going to teach me, but I also was looking for courses with free electives, and I feel like most universities in the Netherlands have a slot in your third year with free electives that you can fill up as you wish. So if you feel like you were lacking something from your entire course, that's your time to fill it up. And people do internships, people do minors. I did my minor in, like I said, gender and sexuality. So I did look into the course a bit, but I was also looking for like a space to fill myself so I can explore. And this is something I've always felt like. I feel like nowadays people very much study to get a job.
Yeah.
And not always study what
The interests that, yeah, absolutely. I agree with you.
Yeah. And of course I fell in that trap too, but that's why I was looking for these like courses where I could also fill in a bit of what I wanted to do and what feeds my soul. So yeah, that's why I looked into it.
And have you looked into, for example, rankings when deciding the university, or have you searched like different websites that you could compare universities, or how did you find the right one inside the Netherlands?
Yeah, I have to say I was not aware of that many comparison websites back then. So I remember I kind of knew like maybe politics, maybe media, and I just Googled top universities. And I did that more so to please my parents, to kind of be like, see, it's a good university. But I also think these rankings are great, but also like I'm talking now, like the big rankings, like THE, like the higher education and stuff, or QR rankings or QS. There's some, like, they're also often like biased, and I don't think we should always pick based on their rankings. Like education is education. Of course, some are better than others, but there's a general good level at most universities. It's just something to keep in mind. Like if you think like you have found the perfect course, but maybe it doesn't rank highest in like top 5, like who cares? Study that if you can, you know? Of course, I still had to find a decent ranking to show my parents. They're Indian.
Let's get into that. I mean, is that something important in India to rank the universities? I don't think it is something like, I mean, I cannot relate to that in Argentina, for example. Like parents checking the rankings of the university.
Yeah.
For me, it's not a thing.
Yeah.
But I understand that for some countries it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's very much a social, like, India's a country of community. Like, there's always this, oh, what will the neighbors say? And so that's the vibe. And so you want to tell your neighbors that your child is going to a prestigious university. So it was definitely for my parents' sake that I checked out their rankings. And University of Amsterdam was great. King's College, where I chose not to go, that's also great. Wasn't really for my sake. But yeah.
And did you find in the university that there were other kids, other people that were also deciding based on that?
Yeah, I mean, people, like, when I started connecting with my classmates on LinkedIn, people were posting, like, oh, top course in the world. I'm like, okay, like...
I see you.
Yeah, I see you. Well done. Yeah.
It's another criteria you can have in mind when you decide. But I mean, it's absolutely good to know, like for people that are listening, that that's not the center of everything. And maybe if you like some program, go for it. Because at the end of the day, the reason why they are hiring you or not, I don't think it's that one.
No.
Which one do you think it is the reason?
Hiring, like,
why do you
work?
think someone, for example, if you finish high school and then you finish the university and then you go into the working life, like, what do you think people are looking at? It's a random question, but I think you can maybe answer or give us a...
I mean, I would hope that they're looking at... Because there's so many... That's such a good question, I think. Because there's so many... Like, I, for instance, think that your education doesn't always need to apply to what you want to work for. That being said, I do think there's a certain bias that maybe recruiters feel like, oh, they studied in Harvard, they must be really smart. So it would be naive to say that that doesn't play a role at all. But I would hope that they don't, like, I'm sure even at Harvard there are some people that, you know.
Yeah, of course.
Like, we've all heard of the scandal where celebrities were paying their kids
get in.
to Harvard. So, you know, I'm like, Harvard is a great university, of course, but it's, I would hope, not the only thing that recruiters look at.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, let's go to the Amsterdam life, because I'm very interested in that. And I think it's something that we can imagine, maybe, I don't know, a lot of tulips, a lot of, bicycles, and a lot of party. I don't know. Is it like the cliche, or did you find something else?
It is a cliche, but for good reason. Like, everyone bikes. Like, truly, everyone bikes. For the first 1 or 2 months, I was like, I'm not going to bike.
You didn't get a bike in this first day or something?
No, I was like, no, I don't want to bike everywhere. But all your friends are biking. So if you're going to go to a party together, they're on their bike. And you're like, okay, see you there, I guess. I'll take the metro. That's not fun. Also, public transport's super expensive. So economically, socially, and health-wise, very quickly, I was like, no, I'm going to start biking. And biking is great in the Netherlands. Like, socially, it goes bikes, walkers, cars. So bikers are at the top. Like, everyone stops for bikes.
They lead.
Yeah, you lead if you're biking. Like, people will stop, cars will stop, like, bikes. It's the way to move around in Amsterdam.
So you had like the full Amsterdam experience with that. And about the social life that you talked about, like going with friends to places, who were those friends? Were like international friends? Were they local friends? I think it's something that a lot of people wonder, like how my social life will be like in this new country or in this new university. Does the university help you to come together or not?
Yes and no. It depends how involved you choose to be in the university activities. Every, how do you say, a bachelor's or program, they have a student association and they host parties and stuff. I was not too into that because I got very lucky. I found my friends very quickly in class. They were mainly international people. It's a good time to say, for every course in the Netherlands, there's an international one or an English one and a Dutch one.
For the same program.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Unless it's a master's. I think master's is usually English and international. But for bachelor's, you can do a Dutch one or an English one. So Dutch people usually choose to do the Dutch one, unless, you know, you have your few Dutch
So you
people.
don't kind of connect too much in the studies.
Maybe through those student associations, but then by then, you know, you stick with your classmates and your comfort in your comfort zone. But so I barely met many Dutch people, which is okay. I had my lovely German and Italian friends, so no complaints. But yeah, if you're looking to go to the Netherlands and meeting Dutch people, it might be a bit harder than you think.
Do you feel like they have like their own group, not only in the uni but in other places as well?
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like I lived in the Netherlands for 3 years, and it became more apparent that they were growing a bit sick of the tourists as well. Like, so there was like a...
But you were not a tourist.
No, but I was not a Dutch person either. So,
so they cannot...
Yeah, I mean, if you're walking past me in the street and hear me speak English, how do you know? Maybe if I have a bike, I don't know. It's like, okay,
I'm a local now for these 3 years.
Yeah. So you could hear like people were getting a bit like, oh, international person or oh, tourist. So there is a bit of a divide, I'll be honest.
But there is another world where you feel comfortable. That is the international community from the Netherlands. Okay, that's good to know. I mean, at least that exists. Some other places that it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And how did you find that those friends from Italy or from Germany or from somewhere else, like how did they find their university, or how did they apply for scholarships? What did you find out about other students when you arrived?
Firstly, it's very common for German people to go to the Netherlands.
Okay.
So
they are close.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
So a lot of German people exist in the Netherlands. I feel like there's some kind of cultural like bonding there.
Beer cultural bonding.
Absolutely.
Probably.
Yeah. When it comes to scholarships, actually, a few of my friends came with scholarships from their own countries. So, and this is not for German and Italian friends per se, but one of my best friends, he was from or is from Indonesia, and he got a scholarship to study in the Netherlands from Indonesia. And again, I have to say, like, if you're a European person wanting to study in the Netherlands, it is significantly cheaper for you than it is for a non-European.
So they have a different fee.
Yes. So I paid the non-European fee, and if I can say,
Yeah.
it was about 15,000 euros a year. And for the same program, my European friends were paying 2,000.
Oh, yeah.
So the need for scholarship was also
Different, of course.
Different.
They didn't need it as much.
yeah, or as much of a big scholarship.
And this friend got it in the home country.
Yeah, from Indonesia. So I can't speak too much on that because I don't know.
No, but
now.
it's interesting, I think, to see all the perspectives, because
Yeah.
otherwise we stay with the idea that only the people that can afford it can go there, and there are other chances, and you get the same degree at the end of the day, and you can do it. But I think it is so interesting to meet others and to meet other realities as well. I think that's the big part, at least for me, to experience life abroad, right? Like to see how other people experience life.
Yeah.
That is not the same than yours.
Yeah, absolutely. And people loved being there, so it was like worth, I think, the time and hard work that you put into your scholarship application and stuff. My friend who was from Indonesia that came with the scholarship, he was like, my heart was set on the Netherlands. Like, I knew I wanted a scholarship to come. And I feel like, and I might need to fact check this, but there is like a historical connection between Indonesia and the Netherlands because of...
They were their colonizers. Yes, of
so
course.
I feel like there are... specifically maybe for people from Indonesia. Again, don't quote me on this, double check this, but if you are Indonesian and you want to go to the Netherlands, I think there's like a bit of extra like accessibility or scholarships for
Probably
you.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And to finish this, I would say it would be nice to hear your advice to someone else that is planning to go abroad to study. But first, before we go to that last question, I would like to ask if you are happy with the content you studied for the life you had afterwards.
Yeah, very. I loved that it was broad. I loved that I was able to mold it into what I do today, which is marketing. I learned very quickly that I wanted to do marketing because in my first year I got an internship to do marketing, just because I wanted to start filling up my CV as soon as possible. So I started doing marketing and I was like, okay, I really like it. So it was really nice that no matter what course we did, it could always be tied into marketing, like communication theory, the philosophy of media and communication, what have you. I loved it. I know some people did not like that. Like they always felt like it was too broad. But for me, I loved it. And yeah, I mean, I'm here today doing marketing.
And what I ask you about, like, the advice for the people that are listening, like that they're maybe in the stage of deciding what they are going to study, maybe they are in the stage of like finding a scholarship or deciding which university based on the ranking or not, I don't know. How can you give them some advice from someone that had this experience of moving abroad and succeed in a way? Because you have your degree and you did your master afterwards and now you're working. So I think it's a successful case, we can say.
Yeah. I think my two main takeaways from my entire experience is, one, look into scholarships. Even though you might think there's not that many options, there truly are. I was not educated enough to understand that there are places more than universities or governments that offer scholarships. There's also private companies like us and many others, so definitely do your research. And secondly, and this is not for everyone, but it's definitely applicable for me and hopefully many of you, and that is choose a degree that is broad. That way you can learn many things, get exposure to different areas, and in the end apply more confidently, because then you can like pick and choose different kinds of jobs and fields to apply to and which part of your education you pull from to make your cover letter, for instance. And honestly, that was my biggest takeaway, and I'm so grateful I did a broad degree, because then technically, I could have applied to the public sector in communications, but also the private sector in marketing. So that is my final piece of advice to you. Pick something broad.
I think it's a really good one, thinking of the world today, right? Like, we don't know how the job life is changing. You know, the working life has a lot of like movement nowadays. So I think it is a great advice. Thank you so much, Ahana. And we will meet you next time in a new episode of Global Study Talks.
Thank you for having me. Bye.
Thank you for listening to Global Study Talks. If you are interested in studying abroad, check out educations.com and get all the help you need in every part of your study abroad journey. See you next time.